How the hell can you call yourself any kind of leftist when you've got an opinion like that? I'd love to hear what Bernie, who apparently Xan really hoped would win in the DNC nominations, would have to say about that. Also, Xan then
Do you mean owns multiple houses, Bernie? This is almost the same level as the people that got mad at Hassan for having a house and a nice car. Like, seriously?
Going on to say that when Lani said she got evicted because her ex was hitting her and abusing her and they were being so loud when they had fights that they got too many noise complaints, he of course says, well, Emily said she made it up, so obviously she did. You fucking piece of shit. He goes on a lengthy diatribe now about credit score.
I've talked about this before, briefly, but I've talked about this a little bit before. That right there is exactly why I do not support the phrase, ideology, whatever you want to call it, of believe all women. I do support listen to all victims, listen to their perspective, listen to their story, but then make your own judgments as to whether or not you actually want to believe them. Because what did DJ Mule just do there? He got mad that Xan did what? Believed a woman other than the woman he wanted to believe. Because, again, with this whole believe all women no matter what narrative, what do you do when there's two women involved? Well, obviously you would want to believe the one that is, like, actually telling the truth once you verify. There's also a really good phrase that I like, trust but verify. I like that a lot, and I very much agree with that mentality as well. Trust when people are telling you things, but verify. In Xan's case, he had Emily coming to her, telling her all this stuff about, his girlfriend at the time, who he could see, he could basically see the writing on the wall. Yeah, listen to the people who are going to be, kind of giving you some kind of advice and trying to help you out of a bad situation.
And his hopes and dreams of being able to move to Seattle. And honestly, I just kind of fucking tuned out at this point. It was like 3 a.m. when I was doing this bit in the script. And after everything that he has done to his ex, I honestly do not care, dude. Like, this guy is so focused on, like, not getting an eviction because it would harm his credit score.
I just explained. Okay. He did it. He's doing it again. He's downplaying the issue with having an eviction on your record. This man is either not living in reality purposely, he's being, like, intentionally obtuse, or he is just actually an idiot. Look, I will say that it could be that I believe he's British, and it could be that because he's British, maybe it works a little bit different in the UK than it does here in America, but I really doubt that's the issue here.
I'm just like, bro, you made someone homeless. You made someone homeless and removed access to their money so that they got arrested because they couldn't afford the upkeep on their registration, and now they have a criminal record. What the fuck do you think that does to someone's credit score? What do you think that does to someone's life?
So I just want to say real quick, I mentioned about the victim blaming. This is like somebody defending themselves against, I don't know, an attacker of any sort. And once they do, maybe they defend themselves with a weapon, maybe they just defend themselves, like, with their fists or something, I don't know. They defend themselves. Maybe they even kill the person, or they just horribly maim them, all in an effort of defense. And then you have someone like DJ Mule come along and say, I thought you believed in I thought you believed in rehabilitative justice. I thought you believed in, or no, you know what? Even better than you defending yourself, you call the cops and have them arrested. And you say, I thought you were against the systemic oppression of the police, and I thought you were leftist. I thought you were progressive. It's like, okay, but, like, yes, there are issues with these systems, and look, personally, I'm not one for, tearing the system down. I'm one for, fixing issues. But you have to work with what is currently in place. It's true that these there are systemic issues and stuff like that, and things like policing and such. But that doesn't mean that you can't or shouldn't use them to do what they're meant to do, which is protect people. Similarly, yeah, it's true that landlords can take advantage of people, and don't even get me started on how they can just keep raising rent without having a cap, things like that. But at the same time, if you're in a situation where it's like, okay, well, either I'm going to get evicted and have this on my record, and I'll basically, have a really hard time getting another place to live if I will get a place to live at all, or I fix this issue for myself and make it so that the other person who is actually responsible here for the issue not take the fall for it, but take the responsibility that they're actually owed for this situation. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, the thing is, in the way the situation occurred, Lonnie is entirely in the wrong. Like, she just is. There is no way of looking at this where you can see that Lonnie was in the right here. But DJ Mule's gonna keep simping for her and say that she is.
Anyway, next, Xanderhal just, like, admits that Lonnie told him that she has nowhere to go, and he's just like, I don't care. And then he says this.
She needed to move her stuff out. I don't wish homelessness on anyone, but it just had to happen. Had to happen. Had to happen. Had to happen.
What?
Not what he said, by the way. I would have to go through his video to find it.
What? All for your fucking credit score, Zan? All because you didn't have the guts to sort out your relationship? Weak, dude. Fucking weak. One of the weirdest things to me that doesn't really add up is that Xanderhal claims that there were eviction notices served to the property that apparently Lonnie had hid. Like, what would that have achieved? And also, why would she not have...
She was trying to fuck him over because she was being a vindictive bitch. People do this, especially in relationships that have gone south. This happens all the time. It's a bad thing, and it's something that mature, emotionally healthy people don't do. But yeah, it's pretty in character, unfortunately.
Have mentioned in a tweet longer that she would have been worried about getting evicted from the apartment by landlords.
So she could use the money to buy meth.
And that.
In a tweet longer, she...
Entire video.
Okay, he just goes through the meth part. We haven't even gotten to that part. We've only gotten to the fact that this is a suspicion for Zan so far. Wait till the penny drops.
What? All for your fucking dude? Claims that there were eviction notices. Why would she not have mentioned in a tweet longer that she would have been worried about getting evicted from the apartment by landlords? When it came down to it, she was evicted eventually anyway. Now, in a tweet longer, she claims that Alex and his mum changed the locks to the apartment so that she couldn't get in when she got out of jail. But honestly, knowing landlords as well as I know them now with the work I've done for the tenants union, it's possible that a landlord would have just done that. Possibly because...
Yes! That is exact... Okay, at least he's correct about this. Yes. When people leave... I have a key to my apartment currently. When I leave, they are going to change the locks because they don't want, understandably so, old residents to have access to the residency once they've left.
Because Xanderhal ended the tenancy and kind of like forced all of her stuff to get locked up. But anyway, it's by the by. And to be honest...
No, he didn't force her stuff to get locked up. He specifically took her stuff and put it into storage so that it would be safer. He went out of his way to do way more than he could have done, way more than he should have done, honestly, more than I would have done. Because, like, well, I don't know. Well, we'll get to that.
I guess it's possible, but I don't know why she'd lie about this, and she doesn't exactly try and vilify Xanderhal in this tweet longer. In fact, at the end of it, she actually pleads with him to get in contact with her to sort all this mess out. She even says at one point, to be clear, I'm not saying all or even most of this is Alex's fault. He isn't required to help me, but it feels like he is trying to make the hole I'm in impossible to dig my way out of. Also, what's he playing at when he shows this Instagram?
Okay. I'll let him speak.
Instagram exchange? Does he think this makes him look like a good person? Of course his fans don't care, they're going to support him anyway, but damn, anyone on the outside looking in is going to see this and be like, yikes. Xanderhal
No, 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 no. No, you do not get to use this and say that Xan is in the wrong here for ignoring a very clear, specific manipulation tactic. Abusive people, especially exes, but people in general who do these kind of things, pull this kind of shit all the time. Please, can you call me just for a minute? I'm not trying to manipulate you, come on. I'm not trying to manipulate you, I swear. I'm just really fucking lonely, and I miss Luna, and that must be their cat. And I'm scared alone, and I just want to hear your voice for 1 minute. Please, please, Alex. At least say no. Fuck, I'm so sorry. Or, I'm sorry. I'm just lonely, and it sucks. Yeah. No. This is absolutely... And you know what? I'll give her this. Maybe it isn't a direct manipulative tactic. Maybe she's just feeling really down in this moment, but if he allows himself to fall back into that cycle again, he will end up either where he was before or in a worse place. There comes a time when you have a partner who is some type of abusive to you that you just have to cut it off. You have to. So, all right. Getting back into my personal experience with this a little bit. It wasn't a situation like exactly what Xan is going through here that caused the inevitable downfall of my relationship with my ex-fiance. There were issues with finances. She wasn't like stealing money from me directly, but she would absolutely constantly ask and beg for money, and I would give it to her. I'd help her with different things. I think I bought her like an iTunes card or something one time too. I'm not entirely sure. But I would do these kind of things for her because, well, I loved her. Really, I was trapped under her spell because this is what manipulative people like her and like what Lonnie do. And there was an instance where we had gone some time without really talking. She was being very distant for a while, and I reached out to her and I was like, hey, we really need to talk about stuff. I want to be with you. I want to work things out. We were still engaged at this point. We didn't, I want to work things out with you, all these different things. And she calls me on my lunch break at work. She was working at a fast food joint at the time, and I was working at a local grocery store. We were in 2 different states at this point. And she proceeds to tell me how she fucked up and she's really sorry and all these different things. And she says, and I kind of had a feeling, I kind of, thought I knew what was happening here, because she starts going into how she went to a party with some coworkers, and she said that this was the day before, or like the day after we had broken up, which I don't believe, but because, well, we'll get to it. So she goes through this whole thing, and she says that she went to this party, and she's dropping little things here and there, right? She's saying how, I had a little too much to drink, and one thing led to another. She didn't say one thing led to another, but and she hooked up with this guy, and just like she has done with so many people before, 3 at least. Well, she said they used protection, they used a condom, but it broke. And the whole time, of course, I'm listening to this and I'm getting progressively more, irritated. She tells me she's pregnant. And I was pretty much at my wit's end by this point already. And that moment just kind of like, really sealed the deal for me because, quite honestly, I was willing to work things out. Even at that point, I was willing to see if we could, get over that fact and we could continue being together. But luckily, I don't want any children. So the fact that she was pregnant again was a big deal breaker for me. Now, on a side note, she already had 2 kids before me, but she was going to give them up to other people in her family because, quite frankly, she wasn't a good mother. And I figured that those 2 children were enough for her to kind of, get motherhood out of her system and realize, okay, I suck at this. I shouldn't be a mother. I shouldn't have any more kids. And I was like, okay, cool. That's great. Just won't have any more kids. Cool. Good. But no, she got knocked up, and she tells me about it, and all these different things. And I was angry. I was very angry. And she said, "Oh, you can hate me, you can be angry, you can do all this." And I was, and I did. I was very angry. I yelled. I told her to burn in hell, and I hung up the phone. And about a week or so later, I was done. I never wanted to speak to her again, hear her again. I took the rest of the day off, and I called some of my family members who kind of talked me through it. I was very, very angry. And a couple weeks later, a friend of ours had her on the phone. I was hanging out with him, and he had her on the phone, and we started talking a little bit. And she was being very pouty, angry, and acting as if I was in the wrong. She's like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to him," as if I was in the wrong. It's like, bitch, you cheated on me and got knocked up. What the fuck are you on about? What? And just to address the whole the cheating part, she said that it was the day after we had broken up and before we got back together. And to clarify, if that was the case, that would have been valid. However, I don't believe that because I definitely had reason to believe otherwise for a good while. And I think that what happened was that this just finally caught up with her. I wouldn't be too surprised even if one of the reasons we broke up in the first place was because that happened and she didn't know she was pregnant. So when she finally found out she was like, okay, I need to tell him. The good thing is that she told me, but once we had started talking a little bit, and actually, we weren't really talking about getting back together, but we were talking just in general. And she did try to tell me at one point, she tried to make me think that it could have been mine. I knew that it wasn't, but she made me think for a split second, oh shit, maybe that's true, and one of my worst fears has come true. That wasn't the case. And what ended up happening later was, as I had moved on from the job that I was currently working, and I started working at another place, there was a point while I was again on my break, and her and I were talking, and she was trying to, clearly she was trying to get back together, and she was using all of these kind of tactics that Lonnie is using to Xanderhal. In fact, another thing that she tried to do a couple years later, about a year or two ago, before I changed my number, which wasn't because of her, I just changed my number and it just happened to work out this way. But she reached out to me asking about how to write music because I was writing music and pursuing a career as an actor and musician at the time. And I basically just told her, like, well, I mean, you kind of just, I don't really know how to explain it. It just kind of comes to me. And then she, kind of quickly moved the conversation along to wanting to get back together. And I told her that wasn't happening. And I was finally strong in myself about doing this. I had a relationship between then and this point where, unfortunately, that didn't end well either. I mean, it didn't end awfully, but it was just, we just weren't right for each other. Just incompatible. But we, this girl that I had this major falling out with that like, could have ruined my life, was still trying to get back into my good graces, still trying to get back on good terms with me. And eventually I got wise to it and I realized, okay, she's just playing with me. Like, I need to be wise to this and just say, nah, fuck that. I need to not entertain this. So I stopped entertaining it. And that is what Zan's doing here. He is not entertaining the manipulative behavior. I mean, she's even saying in her thing, I'm not trying to be manipulative, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's what you're doing. You're just saying that you're not trying to be so that you think you look better and you don't get called out for it or what have you. But it's absolutely what you're doing. So when DJ Mule does this kind of thing where he does, again, this abuse apology, this victim blaming, it's sickening. And to not realize what this is manipulation right here. But because it's from a woman, he won't say that.
Anyone on the outside looking in is going to see this and be like, yikes. Xanderhal shares some more DMs with people who were like legit concerned about Lonnie's whereabouts. He underlines this one where a third party.
Hi Alex, trying to find Lonnie. I don't know, I haven't spoken to Lonnie in a couple of days. I found out she was stealing tons of money from me and I broke up with her. Did she not answer your calls? OMG, blank told me too. This is awful. Yeah, she's totally acting weird, hanging out with creepy cold dude, comes to my shows and just sits in the car smoking DMT most of the time, hardly even hangs out with us.
Party, who would be unbiased, says that she was smoking.
Watch Dan's video. He goes over all this shit.
DMT in the car with someone. Xan underlines this and writes doubt here, implying that he thinks that she was smoking meth. Again, let me point this out to everybody. If somebody is addicted to meth, especially if it's someone that you love, that still doesn't make everything that he's doing to her okay. He correctly points out in the video that meth and DMT need a pipe to be smoked in, a crack pipe in particular. And yeah, that's correct. But if you've ever actually been outside in your actual life, you would know that someone on crystal...
Again, just the irony of this man saying that.
Meth behaves extremely differently to someone who is on DMT. So I actually entirely believe that she was smoking DMT and not meth, to be honest. Not that it matters, right? Also, clearly in reference to Alex telling her he's spoken to friends who've been worried about her whereabouts, she says in this screenshot, I spoke to blank, and they said you never spoke to them. I'm confused. Which is clearly, at the very least, an indicator that Xanderhal is not telling the full truth with these screenshots. Xanderhal then admits that he was considering going back to the apartment with the police. A leftist who's done content covering police brutality. He was going to bring the cops to his ex-girlfriend's place, probably telling them that she'd stolen from him, is addicted to crystal meth, and might be fucking crazy and unhinged. This motherfucker could have got her killed. Also in the...
Again, you can be against issues systemically and still understand that the system in place has its benefits and its uses for you in the times that exist. Again, if your house is being broken into or something like that, you're not going to be like, oh, well, I can't call the cops because a cab. No, you're not going to, if there's an issue going on where you need the police involved, you don't. Again, if you have an issue going on where you would need the police involved, you don't just not get them involved because ACAB or some shit like that.
In this next bit, Xanderhal just straight up accuses Lani of setting up a credit card in his name, which is extremely fucking hard to do when you don't have a fixed address. Like, where is she picking up this credit card from, dude? Is she picking this up from, like, the car park where she's sleeping in her car? One of the first things that he says in this video is that he noticed that money was getting drained out of his PayPal account to an unknown source, and that he didn't believe Lani when she said that he might have got hacked. But I've had my PayPal hacked before. A literal Russian child hacked my fucking PayPal in 2014 because I didn't know what I was doing. The
Bro, this is just an own on yourself. I don't know what to tell you.
little shit used it to pay for gaming subscriptions. It was extremely funny. And in fact, when I contacted PayPal, they sorted it all out immediately. It was pretty fucking good, to be honest. But what I'm trying to point out with this anecdote is that actually, it's entirely possible that someone could have stolen Xanderhal's identity and taken out a credit card in his name. Not just Lani. Next is more unfounded.
No, but there are certain crimes that happen where the more likely perpetrator is not some random person, but somebody that you're close to. All forms of assault and abuse are this way. Your identity being stolen is, unfortunately, but honestly true, more likely to be stolen by somebody that you know rather than somebody that you don't know. Just like the big scare with Halloween candy back in like the 90s and 2000s, I grew up during this even, was kind of like, well, it was super overblown, but you know, the reality is you're more likely to be attacked by your own parents as a kid than you are to be attacked by, well, a stranger. That's not to say that the whole stranger danger thing and not talking to strangers isn't, you know, valid. It is. But at the same time, you know, these issues are complicated.